And welcome to today's SMM Connect very special webinar event, More Secrets of Influence, Pull, Sway, Leverage, Clout, Mojo, Power with Elena Zucker, President of Elena Zucker Associates. My name is Philip Rodriguez. I'm today's webinar producer. We're very happy to have you with us here today for what will be a great event. And welcome back, Elena, for another great webinar here in SMM Connect. That's me, Philip Rodriguez, today's webinar producer. I produce for Training Magazine Network, our parent community, and SMM Connect. Thanks for joining us here today. Here's some upcoming webinars that I know that you'll want to register for. Go to smmconnect.com/calendar or simply click on your screen and you'll be able to register for all of these events. And look, we have so much great content coming your way. Please check the webinar calendar frequently because we add to it all of the time. You can follow us on X, or I guess formerly Twitter, at SMM Connect US. If you don't already follow us, you should do so today because a lot of special announcements come through X. SMM focused reports are available to you. Actually, I have a correction here. The URL that is shown here doesn't direct you to the report. So I'm going to go ahead and put in chat how to access the special reports, focused reports in SMM Connect. There's that link for everybody to examine and go to. And so now let's get today's event started. More secrets of influence, pull, sway, leverage, clout, mojo, power with Elena Zucker. Elena, welcome back to SMM Connect.
Hi, Philip, and hi, Marco, and everyone who is here. I am really excited to see you. You know, as you guys probably know, even though you've done a presentation so many times, there are always potential glitches with technology. And let me tell you, if technology goes wrong, the person I would most like to have in the lifeboat with me is Philip Rodriguez. I
Thank you, Elena. Very kind.
I specifically requested Philip today because the time before when he produced the session I was doing, everything went black on my two screens about 2 minutes to go. And Philip, bless your heart, he is a tech genius, and also, may I say, a calming influence. So everything seems to be working. I hope everybody can see and hear me. And welcome, welcome. So we got some answers, but let me just take a moment now and ask um, if people have not already answered, and maybe if they did, you could read me some of these in the chat, Philip. Where are you calling in from?
It
So,
looks like we have Florida, Minnesota, we have Atlanta, y'all, Toronto,
oh, cool.
Tulsa,
Bonjour.
Spain. Anders is joining us from Spain. Welcome, Anders.
Oh, wonderful. Buenos dias. Oh, this is great, great. I don't speak those languages, but Philip is on the big island of Hawaii. So it's quite early in the morning for you,
Well,
Philip.
and there's John from Charleston. And Elena, I know we're going to say goodbye to you on video here momentarily, but you'll come back in at the end for the question and answer. So
Okay.
take it away.
Thank you so much. So, again, welcome, welcome, everybody. I'm thrilled to talk to you about my favorite subject. As Philip said, I'll be going off camera and you'll be looking at my slides and hearing my audio. So, let me just sort of set some housekeeping. We'll go for about 40 minutes. I think it won't be all lecture. So, I really invite you to be here in the present. And if you're multitasking, you'll get much more out of this if you really are with us, because just to make sure that you don't glaze over, I have some questions that I will be asking you. So we have some slides, as you'll see in a minute, but I also would like for you to have an actual paper and pencil, if you could have a notebook or something, because you may have some of your own insights, ideas, thoughts, If you have questions as we go along, please put those in the Q&A. And the answers to questions I will be asking you, put those in the chat. Is that correct, Philip? So
That's
the
correct.
the answers will go in the chat. We have some polls, and those will go on the regular poll graph, and you'll see the results instantly. And but your own answers to things will go in the chat. And you do not have to take notes of anything on the slides, because as soon as this is over, you're going to have a very fresh PDF of everything that was on the slides. Okay, so let's go. And in a few minutes, I'm going to uh, begin to share the slides. So I think you can with the camera now, Philip.
It is already it just they can't see you. I can see you, but just leave that as
Okay.
it is. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. All right. So, you're probably already good at influence, or you wouldn't be where you are, and you may not be. You are here because you obviously want to be better at it. Because we're always looking for that extra edge, isn't that right? We all want to be winners, and sometimes it seems as if some people have some kind of magic going for them. They always seem to make the right impression and get exactly what they want. So let me just share a couple of slides. So this is me, or a reasonable facsimile. Uh, I'm just going to give you a little background on me. I've always been in sales, and my very first job was selling encyclopedias door to door in the freezing suburbs of Montreal, which is my hometown, where I'm back. And that was the best education, let me tell you, for selling and influencing. At the time, this was a pretty high ticket sale. And of course, I later became a sales manager and worked in advertising in Montreal. But then I went to New York City because I was in the advertising world, and I was in the very high competition, high, fast paced world of advertising. And, burned out at 30 after working, 27 hours a day in crazy advertising. So I went back to graduate school at NYU and got a degree in organizational development, or organizational behavior. And I put out my shingle in New York City, and as you know, build it, they will come. So did the world come calling to give me business, contracts, money? They did not. No one knew who I was, what I did, nor did anybody care. And so fortunately, I had my selling skills, and I had a lot of self-confidence. I don't know why. So I started selling door to door again, but at the doors of American Express, Citibank, Chase, etc., because they're just people. So since then, I've worked with dozens of Fortune 100 companies. I've taught thousands of students, but I've always wondered, how do I influence people in a way that is strategic? When I was successful, it seemed like a happy accident. That may be the case with you. Wow, good, I scored, but sometimes I had no idea why. It just seemed like a stroke of luck, or the person was already warmed up. Well, during that period, I was briefly a professor at Montclair State University, and I had a chance to weave together my business experience and academic discipline. And I came up with my own theory and practice of influence. You could call it a technology of influence. So let me just ask, are there any tech or IT people here today? If you would just put that in the chat.
And Stuart has a question, Elena. They're curious as to what agency you actually worked
Okay.
at.
Many agencies, and it's a little off the topic, so I'll answer that later in the Q&A.
Right,
If
perfect.
that's okay, Stuart. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I analyzed the skill sets and behaviors practiced by successful influencers. And then I built those back into a very simple but powerful set of lessons that anyone can learn to become a better influencer. So, this is not a complicated theory with a lot of quadrants and stuff to remember. I hope that after today, if you learn one thing, you'll be able to put it into practice tomorrow. So that's my goal always. It's taken me 20 years to make this simple. So let me just share what we will cover today. So I want to start with the global because there have been many changes in the world and in the workplace. And we're going to cover some of those because that makes it very important. Why do we need influence? Why influence matters now? And then I'm going to look at some myths and misconceptions about influence because, these days the word influencer is very common. And, it kind of means having a zillion followers on social media. But that's not necessarily the way I think about or define influence. So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to zoom in, if you will, to the personal. And we're going to look at how you are influenced when you're at the receiving end of someone else's influence attempts. And we're then going to flip it over and look at how do you influence others. So you're going to look a little bit at your own influence MO or your modus operandi. And then I'm going to focus on the one influence secret that makes all the difference. Okay, so I hope this is what you're expecting because that's what I'm going to be delivering. So, and some of the outcomes, the takeaways that I'm hoping that you'll have from today will be you'll have certainly greater awareness of, what's going on in the trends and issues in the world around us. You'll have some insight into your own influence issues, as I mentioned, because we're going to kind of do a little bit of analysis, which is only for you. You do not need to share it with anyone. And then finally, I hope you're going to have some knowledge of the broader kind of influence concept and the one influence theory. And most importantly, which is not here, which I feel is really a very important ingredient, is confidence. Because when you have more knowledge and more awareness, then it spawns confidence in us all. And I do believe that confidence is such an important ingredient, as we'll see. So let me just talk about some of the global trends. So, what this is, excuse me, the Forum, World Economic Organization, did a study about 2 years ago looking at what are going to be the most necessary skills for the future. And of course, now we know that, some of the more manual and rote skills are being handled by AI. It's kind of scary in some ways, but really pretty amazing. And you'll see that the two charts here of what is growing in importance. And that's very important for us to know because, you want to be on the growing bandwagon because that makes you more desirable, right? And right at the top here is social influence. So you're going to need influence skills in the future. And really, this is just what's in and what's out. And also, a recent article in the Harvard Business Review says that to be effective in organizations today, you must be able to influence people. So I want to quickly look now at what are the conditions going on, at why influence is so very important, and why it's important to you, to me, to us. Because how will you influence and persuade people via Zoom or this is Adobe or telephone when you know it's hard enough to do it in person? I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's simple, as I call it. So we'll see that in just a minute. So you may have tried various books, courses, coaching, etc., to improve your influence skills, but you may find you're still not getting the results you want. Would you put still trying in the chat if that's the case for you? So let's just take a pause and see what people are saying in terms of still trying. Okay, what do we have, Philip?
We have still trying. Another Sonia Carl Terry, Brenton. Growth is continuous. I always see room for improvement. Well put,
Cool,
Brenton.
cool.
Yes,
Exactly.
Kristen also still trying.
Okay. Hi, Kristen.
Mm.
Okay, so excellent. So I want to look briefly at what the trends are. Okay, so first of all, most important, I think, is competition. We know there's competition between countries, within industries, and even within companies, and also within professions. So, this is, we don't really talk about this because, collaboration is the big buzzwords, but really, we are competing with our peers all the time. What are we competing for? You may have some situation like that in your own life right now. Well, we want more time with the boss, better resources, more budget, more people. I just want to mention here that we've done a couple of polls on LinkedIn recently asking people, number one, what is your biggest challenge? What person or persons do you most find challenging to influence? And the number one that came up was my boss, my management, managing upward. So my guess is that the same might be true for you. There may be having to influence colleagues, and we're going to look in a minute at how that works inside the organization. So the next challenge or the next, let me just do a check, Philip. On my screen, the left is a bit cut off. Are people seeing the whole slide here?
Yes.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. All right, I always like to check the tech. Okay. So, of course, technology is all around us. Thank goodness we wouldn't be able to do these kinds of meetings with people from, Spain and Mexico. It's very, very exciting. And of course, we're all connected. But although we are all connected, a famous futurologist once said, and I love this, high tech leaps ahead and high touch lags behind. More and more, we don't have that water cooler, even metaphorically, because so many of us are working from home. And so a lot of people tell me that our interpersonal skills are getting a bit rusty. So even though technology helps us in a lot of ways, we might be losing that personal touch. For example, I'm here with you. I don't know how many of you there are. I think we had over 100 people register. But unlike being in a real classroom with you, I cannot see you. I can't see your eyes. I can't see your face. And right now, you're not seeing mine either. But you get my point that it's a little bit distant and it's a bit frustrating. So, just want to mention that about technology. The next trend that I think is important, which we may or may not think about, is that innovation used to be the province of the creatives. And speaking of advertising, I was often on the creative side or the selling side. But now we are all required to be more innovative. Management want us to come up with new solutions to old problems, come up with more cost effective strategies. Now, I know from personal and sometimes hard experience that even the best idea can gather dust if you don't have the influence skills to sell your idea to someone who can sponsor it, finance it, right? So, this is why influence skills can be so, so important. And finally, the last trend I want to touch on here in the global look that we're doing today, kind of a 30,000 view, 30,000 feet view, is the structure of relationships. So most organizational charts, especially if you work in a large system or if you're a vendor, as I am, to large organizations. Their formal organization chart may look like this, with the executives on top, the C level, and then, layers and layers below, and everybody knows who's on first, so to speak. And it's very knowable, but not very democratic. But the real deal is that whatever the formal organization chart looks like, this is much more accurately what a real organization, how it functions. So we call this the matrix, or the lateral, or the network, the web type of organization. There are a lot of temporary or dotted line relationships here. So this may be true for you, and just why don't you just say in the chat whether it's true in my organization, true or not true? Okay. Okay. What are people saying, Philip?
Not answering yet. Repeat the question of true or untrue.
Okay. So the question is, does this lateral or matrix organization resemble the way things happen in your organization?
Don saying true. Anders, true. No doubt about it. Carl,
Okay, good.
Sonia, it's a mix.
Okay. So this is very challenging because you may be on a team or task force, but you don't really report to the team leader in real life, in your performance. But you may have to influence people over whom you have no authority. So it's pretty hard to figure out who you need to influence here. And, if you want to be heard, and get your ideas acknowledged, you really need to have influence skills. So I call this influence relationships. So if I haven't scared you yet, uh, with all these changes and uncertainties going on, neither what you know nor who you know will guarantee your success. Your knowledge, your tech expertise can become obsolete, and even your network of contacts can vanish overnight. I have told this story. Some of you may have heard it, but a long time ago, when I was a principal consultant for a little company called AT&T, and I was getting ready to help them figure out their budget. It was kind of around this time of year. And one of my clients called me at home on the weekend and said, "We've had a huge reorganization. We don't even know if we're going to be reporting to the same building on Monday." So, poof, here went my wonderful, first level client. And so, I was kind of up the proverbial creek. And so, the important thing why I call influence skills portable power is that it's a set of skills that you can practice and master wherever you are. It's within you. Okay, so we're going to, in a moment, get to the actual definitions of influence. But, the ability to persuade others is not a magical gift that only a few people have. It's just a set of practical skills. And there are many myths and misconceptions about influence, and I'm going to review some of them and get to the real definition of influence. So, what's coming up now is a poll. And let me see now. Okay. So, would you I want to advance this slide, Philip.
All right. There we go. I'm not sure why. Let me know if it doesn't continues not to work for you, but you were doing fine here. Let's go
Yes,
ahead
okay.
and
I'm fine now. Okay.
okay, good.
I'm fine.
And I just put up the poll
Okay, perfect.
and people are starting to answer.
Good, good. Now, let me just mention also, if your answer doesn't fit into one of, I would like it to be in the poll answers, but if it doesn't fit in here, why don't you just put other in the chat? Because I want to hear everybody.
Getting a few others. The percentage is just kind of shifting a little.
Okay, good. We always like that.
And let's give people just a few more seconds here
Sure.
to answer. It's a little bit of a horse race. Five. Let's end it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All righty. Okay. What do we
So
have?
we have 77% power, title and position 15%, manipulation 8%, and many followers on social media is a 0.
Okay,
And
good.
we
I'm
we
glad. Yeah.
yes, and
I'm
a
not
few
seeing it though.
others in chat.
Philip, I'm not seeing the
Don't
result.
worry, don't worry about it. I think you're just having a screen view issue. It's there for everybody to see, and
Okay.
I'll make sure you get the results too.
Well, I just want everyone to see it. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, everyone's good.
Well, okay. Well, power is definitely what comes to mind, but there are a lot of kind of wrong assumptions, misconceptions about influence that I want to cover, and I'll tell you why in just a minute, and then we'll get to the real definition.
And Elena, before we move off of this, Carl has a good question on how are you defining, or how is power defined here?
You're just reading my mind. It's coming up in two slides.
Perfect.
Okay, Carl, thank you for that. Okay, so I just want to go through some of these myths and misconceptions about influence. And okay, so the first one, can everyone see this?
Yes,
Okay,
we're
good.
good.
So, influence skills, this is what is the common conventional wisdom, if you will. Influence skills are the same as communication skills. And that really isn't exactly correct because they are a subset of communication skills. So you may be very good at communication, i.e., getting along with people, but influence skills have you caused someone else to do or think or change something different. That is influence, which we're going to get to in a minute. And then the second myth or misconception is, real managers don't need influence. And I would say again that that is incorrect because, especially with your younger reports, the old command and control definitely does not work anymore. So you're going to need influence to manage downwards, sideways, and upwards. And then another one, which I hear all the time and is really important, is that people say, well, when influence comes to mind, I think about manipulation. I can't remember now in the poll how many people said that that was their answer. And here's how I like to answer that. And the reason I take the time to go into this is that psychologically, if you feel that influence is, there's something kind of shady about it or it's not above board, you won't want to do it and you won't want to learn how to do it. So I hope that I can, persuade you that it's up to you. So, what I like to say is that influence, like any power, like electricity or nuclear power, is a power. And how you choose to use it is then up to you. Do you want to use it for good or ill? Okay, so I like to assess this on a couple of dimensions. One of them is the intent, and the other is effect. Okay, so simply put, the first one is, are my intentions honorable? Do I intend to teach you something, to add benefit to your life, to enrich or enlighten you in some way? And the effect is, how do you over there feel about the results of our interaction? Do you feel enlightened or enriched, or do you feel used and exploited? And if you can answer positively, then I would say that, the answer is positive influence. Okay, so let me make sure that anyone have anything to say here? Any questions about this so far?
Nothing yet. So, but I'll chime in here as needed, Elena.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so here's the big reveal if you haven't headed to your dictionaries yet. So, what I like to, this is the dictionary definition, by the way, it's not mine. And it says that it's the ability, as many of you said, power, ability, capability to affect others, one or many. But I do like to say that influence happens one person at a time. So, if any, we'll talk about groups in a minute later on. But you are affecting, what are you affecting? Their attitudes, their values, and behavior. Now, you may not know, you may not have evidence that you're affecting the attitudes and values because, it's not observable, but you will certainly know if you have affected somebody's behavior because they will take an action or do something that you are requesting. And of course, the caveat is without exertion of force or formal authority. You may want to write your own notes, but as I said before, you're going to get all of these slides. So, interestingly, what I found in the dictionary is that an archaic definition of influence says that it's the flowing of an ethereal fluid from the stars, thought to have a magical effect on the actions and character of people. I found this interesting because influence, when done skillfully, may seem like magic, but really, like magic, it requires a lot of skill and practice behind the scenes, but not complex. Okay, as I said before, it's easy and it really is simple once you know what you're doing. So, we're always influencing people, but even if we're good at it, we have little conscious awareness of what we're doing. So, have you ever come out of a meeting or a conversation? You scored, you got what you wanted, but you didn't know why. You might have thought it was luck or an accident or good chemistry, or you had a situation where you struck out. Maybe you just, as a very famous executive once answered when somebody asked, why did you fire that person? His performance was great and everything. And he said, sometimes you just don't like a guy. So, sometimes when you strike out, you think, well, I don't know, maybe they just didn't like me. And you may not have known that there were in specific sort of micro behaviors that you could have done differently, and you might have had a different result. So, if you knew what the ingredients were um, in specific behaviors of influence, you could do it again and again, couldn't you? You could repeat kind of very confidently what those successful behaviors were and have it always available to you, couldn't you? So, would you write yes or no in the chat? Is that true that if you knew what the behaviors were that specifically, then you could repeat them? As I said, it's not rocket science. Okay, what are people saying, Philip? Yes or no?
Yes, very true. Yes,
Okay.
Terry says.
Okay, okay. All right. So now we're going to zoom in, and I'm using zoom as a verb here before Zoom became a thing. So let's look at influence in your life, and we're going to have another poll. Okay. So,
Here,
I, yes, there
the,
it is. Okay. So I just want to mention Let's see. Is this the slide? Okay. Let me see though, Philip. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's use the previous one actually, because it's the same factors, as the one before. My bad. We should have had, this one in this place. Okay. Now, is this the poll with 6 options that you've prepared for this question, Philip?
Yes.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay. I just want kind of as an aside, stage notes. I just want you to see how very important the producer is in these events. It takes, so much. I could not possibly do this by myself. Look at the chat, advance the slides, etc. So, props to Philip again. Okay, so what I'd like to ask you here, and before I ask you to fill it out, I just want us all to be aware that, we are bombarded with thousands of attempts to influence us every single day. You research one thing, and, because of cookies, it pops up on your other device. We have ads on TV for remedies for diseases that you never heard of, etc., etc. So it's very important to know when we're on the receiving end how we are being influenced. I don't know whether you've looked at this before, but now we're going to look at this as a poll. So think about a time recently that you were influenced by somebody. Would be good if it was a somebody, or maybe something, maybe a book or a speech or a webinar, and you were influenced. That effort caused you to say yes. So, as a result, you took a job, buy a house, sell a house, take a course, etc. And so, as a result of their influence on you, think about what was the top ingredient of their attempt. Okay, so was it that you know and trust the person? You can read these options here. Okay, so there are 6 options here.
Right. And I've actually, we had people answering as you were describing it, Elena, and know and trust is 60%.
Okay.
Offer of a brighter future is 20%, and facts and figures and data is 20%. And so just the top 3, 60, 20, and 20.
Like
And
no and trust.
right, no emotional appeal answers, no a reward, or no fear of not complying. And then
Okay, well,
we've had a couple also comments here in chat, just so you know. Sonia saying, I'm often influenced by my colleagues just because they have a different experience set than mine. They are younger and often have a different culture from mine.
yeah, very, very interesting. Okay. So, in order to be influenced by people, you have to be open. You were going to say something, Philip.
No, that's good. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So you can see, every time we do this, it's always different. So, it depends on the population. I don't know how many people we have here today, but it always comes out slightly different. And it doesn't matter. So let me just say here right now, there's no better or worse. And what I now we're going to do is we're going to flip it over, and we're going to look at you as an influencer, because really that's why you're here. And there are 4 options in this poll. So really, I just want you to get a quick look at yourself. And when you think about how you influence others, what is your favorite way of influencing, or what is your default, if you will? Okay. And so this is a poll as well. And if you have other, put that in the chat, because sometimes people have other.
And I see people answering. Thank you. And other again goes in chat or and be descriptive if you'd like. But right now, let's give people just a few more seconds to
Yeah,
answer.
a few more seconds. Yeah.
And let's take a look. Oh, it's
Drum
shifting.
roll.
I know it's shifting just a little bit, but it's pretty constant here. Here we go. Logic and facts, Elena, 73%. Excited about a future vision is 13%. And a benefit for saying yes is 13%. No, zero negative
Very interesting.
consequence if you say no.
Okay, well, this might very, very interesting. Okay, what I'd like you people to do before we move on to the next one is would you look at how you answered before, how you are influenced by others, and then look at the word that you said for how you do it. And are they the same or not same? It is interesting because the words were not exactly the same in both of them. Okay,
And
how
people
many
are
people?
typing.
Yeah,
Oh, let us know. Were they the same or not the same?
same or
Here,
not same?
Carl is typing and others the same, says Carl.
Oh, good.
And also Kristen.
Okay. So you can tell, is it that they did it in the chat or are they doing a poll?
No, they're just answering in chat right now. Same, Marilyn.
Okay. All right. So we don't, yeah. Okay, good. Because we did have this as a poll. Okay. All right. So sometimes it's overwhelmingly same, but you never can tell. So let me move on. Um, as I said earlier, I like to call this the technology of influence. So what I did was I analyzed the behaviors of successful influencers, not the ones with a lot of people on Instagram, but people in life who are very successful and influence others. And I built those. Hello?
We're
Oh,
good. There was
okay.
a small glitch there, but go ahead.
Okay. And so I built them back into what I call the technology of influence. So it's very, very simple. There are basically 6 styles. This is just to show that there are different components, but the 6 styles are a result of our influence styles inventory, which we don't have time for today. But it's a psychological, psychometric assessment which identifies which of 6 styles you are strongest in terms of influencing. It's not a personality test. Remember, I said it's different from just communication skills. And now let me ask you an important question. So, if there are 6 styles that we came up with, and the book and the program is called 7 Secrets of Influence, what do you think is the seventh secret? And I would love to hear people's guesses in the chat.
And we'll give people a few moments
Yeah.
here to think, ponder that important question.
So, what
Carl
is the,
saying,
yeah.
Carl saying perseverance.
Hmm.
Of course, the people may be influenced by other people's answers here too, which is interesting. Charisma,
Good. Good.
situation, says Susan.
Hmm.
Richard, integrity.
Hmm.
Anders is saying EI.
Emotional intelligence, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Sonia, combo of what we believe influence others and what we get out of it. Judith, ability in approach. And Gary says dictating.
Okay. Okay. Well, they're all, any more?
Yes, Tracy, trustworthy. Marco, uh, t- um, I guess it's situationally, corset situationally, or if you could just retype Marco there just to make sure. And he's doing so there to use it situationally. Thank you. So
Okay.
good answers. Thank you, people.
Yes,
Thank
thank you so much, people. Okay, well, some of you touched on it, and some of you said, you know, integrity, which goes back to what many of you answered about uh, trust. Remember that how you were influenced, and a lot of you answered because you trusted the person. So that's very similar. But here is the big formula. So I call this the seventh secret. It's nothing to do with math. However, what this is the seventh secret is that influence equals attentiveness and flexibility. Okay, so let me just repeat that and you can take that in. So it means listening and observing the other person, whether it's a person or a group. And I think we may have time. I'll tell you a little story about a group for influencing. So it means that you have to have better radar as a way to understand the other person. You know, not their goals or objectives or their budget or things like that, but really what is their influence preference? What language of influence do they want to be persuaded in? And then for you to have the flexibility to speak to them in their own language because it's like, likes, like. That's why I asked you that question about is the way that you're influenced similar or the same to others, to the way that you're influenced by others? Do you do it the same way? So, you know, the thing is that the assessment of how you influence, of course, we're all interested in me, me, me. What is my profile? But really, it's the more important learning there is how can I use this six style um, prism as a lens through which to identify the other person. And, you know, once you've taken it, this is what all of our thousands of seminar participants tell us. Once you understand these six styles, and again, I say very, very simple, no complicated theories to memorize, all the clues that people are sending you will pop out. You'll have a kind of, it's like having 3D glasses. So, and let me just full disclosure, I didn't make this up. It comes from NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So, I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. It's a system of communication that really just analyzes already how we communicate. And the basic premise is that this is a way to get rapport, even if you don't naturally have it. Okay, because you know, if you're in a foreign country and you're speaking the language, even a few phrases, you are kind of accelerating the rapport that you get with whoever you're speaking to because you're trying, right? So just think about that. Okay. So we're going to get to Q&A in a couple of minutes. And I also want to say that the flexibility uh, means that it doesn't mean that you're changing the content or the value of what you're offering or your values. It's simply a stylistic. In a way, you could say it's just looking at it in a different language. And just to prove this, these are kind of fun. This was a random person. I was at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, and this lady was dressed in that outfit and standing there looking at this piece of art. I have no idea who she is, but I'm sure she was pretty unaware that she was gravitating to something familiar. And some of these were taken. This is a photographer, I don't have his name, who sits around in museums in different countries and takes these pictures of people who are gravitating. I think this is amazing. I mean, this one almost blends right into the piece of art. So you may or may not agree with this, but it seems that that's how it is. And so I just want to review what we covered today, and then we'll be open to Q&A. And I think we'll have about 10 minutes left for Q&A. So,
Actually, a little shorter so than that because we're just about 6 minutes away from the top of the hour. Just
okay.
so, yeah.
All right. So I don't need to read this to you. Everybody can read. So we talked about the global and looked at the trends, and then we zeroed in on the personal, how you are influenced, how you influence others, and finally the seventh big secret. And now I will stop talking.
Well done, Elena. Getting thanks for your knowledge from Marco and experience. Great stuff. And he has to leave. And if you have to leave, I understand the recording is going to continue here, so we can get some good Q&A going here. So put in your thoughts or questions here for Elena, since you've got the expert here with us. And
Philip, one quick question: will the Q&A, what we're doing now till the end, will that be in the recording that people hear?
yes, well, yes. We're still, of course, we're continuing recording. All the recordings are we always record here at SMM Connect, and we have the link there just below the main slide to look at the recorded webinar archive. And of course, it's also part of the chat as
Okay,
people are pondering.
good. Okay, you can put my camera back if you like. I just want to.
All righty. Let's let me get that back here. I think we may need to restart your video
Oh,
though. Hang
well,
on
you
just
know
a
what?
second.
If it's a big deal, never mind. I want to hear the
Oh,
piece.
all righty.
Okay, so yes or not?
Yes, we have Carl saying situationally, how do you go about really understanding the other person's real hot buttons in quotes?
Okay, great question. Well, it's really not so much hot buttons as what is their favorite criteria for making a decision. So I will tell that little story in a minute about how you can learn. What if you're in front of a stranger? Okay, so how do you learn about them? What you seem to be asking? Okay, I will answer that in a story. Okay, next.
We are good. So you can go ahead, Elena.
Okay, so anybody yet?
Nope,
Oh,
not yet.
okay, good, good. I guess I answered everyone's questions. Okay.
And that's good.
So I'll tell you just a little story. I was invited as a vendor. This was many years ago when I was in New York City. And I was among 6 or 7 little companies. Some of them were bigger, to present to a very large multinational company a program about influence. And a few months earlier, I had gotten this big a binder, kind of a request for proposal, an RFP like you get from the government, if anybody's a vendor. And it was this, big fat binder that had all these tabbed sections. Those were in the days, we didn't have everything in a PDF. And so I was invited to spend 45 minutes to present my program. And so what I did was I showed up, and unfortunately, they had left their flip chart from some of the other vendors in the kind of waiting area. I didn't really have time to look at it, but so as I say, I had 45 minutes, and what I did was I gave each person, there were 5 people in that room, and I gave each of them a binder that I had created that was, you guessed it, the same color and tabs that the one they had given me. And that's kind of a little subtle way of getting rapport. But here's what I did, because you have to read the room, whether it's one person or 500. I had no idea who these 5 people were. I didn't know whether they were the actual people who had written that binder. Probably not, because, they move people around. And so I needed to find out who were these folks. And so I used about 8 or 9 of my 45 minutes to ask them some questions. What is your most important criterion for making this choice? So one person could say budget, and another one said how interactive it is. And then I also looked at their body language to see who agreed with who else. And so I used that in my presentation. So as I say, I used, some minutes of my precious 45. And I even threw out some chunks of what I was going to talk about because nobody seemed to be very interested in that particular criterion. So that is a very quick story, and it's a quick way to, how to read the room.
Elena, thank you. Thank you so much for, again, a wonderful session here today for SMM Connect. And for those who may not know, there are other recordings also available in SMM Connect from Elena, and Elena will have to have you back soon again to continue this important topic.
Okay. Philip,
Thank you.
can we go back to just what this slide here?
Well, it's showing. It's showing right now, but I have to have this up right now just because we want to get at people's most useful idea or takeaways for
Okay.
those of you still in the room. You'll see a new pod over on the right-hand side, and you can continue the chat. Robert says thank you. But take a moment and put in your most useful idea or takeaway.
Okay. And I'm just moving these because I wanted to show the contact slide.
Great.
Okay,
And
everyone.
also,
Mhm.
today's handout was in the handouts pod. It's also going to post with with today's recording in
And then
SMM
there's a
Connect.
freebie. Okay, so here's the link to our new e-learning program. Uh, we didn't have time to talk about it, but if you click on that link, I believe it's live. You can get to the page on my website that describes it. And then finally, here's your freebie. So it's called Influence Hacks. And these are 5 stories of mine that give you a little insight into, influence in real time, what I did, what the situation was. Now, I just want to ask whoever asked me that question, did I answer it?
That of the Carl's question. If
Yeah.
Carl is still in the room, Carl, go ahead and put that in the main chat. And I see people putting their takeaways, thank you, most useful idea, also in the far right hand side.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Keep the questions or comments coming.
Yes, please.
And I see Sid is typing. And also, let me get the handouts pod back up here. So people can go ahead and, again, the handout has the links and everything available to you here. Let me just go ahead and put that right
Yes.
over our upcoming webinar slide.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just mouse over that and you can download, Elena was nice enough to provide a PDF of today's presentation if you didn't already download it, and it will post with the recording.
Okay, great.
And so, Carl, didn't see if that situationally the hot buttons question was answered for you. Let's hope so. If you have anything else to say, go ahead and put it in chat. I know we're a little bit beyond the hour, but the recording continues. Thanks, says Don. Sid says, thank you, Elena. Very time well, very spent. Attentiveness and flexibility are the 2 takeaways for me as
Oh,
well.
good. Thank you. Now, let me just also say that you can email me if you have a question and you're getting, cut off because of time. I really entertain all emails, and I will, certainly answer your question. So, not to worry.
And let me bring up let's go back to that contact slide that you have here. I'm sorry, I got cut off a little there, but you can see Elena's email, easy for you at easyinfluence.com. And even her phone there, so you can see how things are in Montreal if you want to give her a
Yeah.
call. So thank you all for attending today's event. It's been time, like again, well put, time well spent. I agree.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. Let me just say thank you to everybody. Thank you for staying till the end. It was a pleasure having you. And thank you, my dear Philip, for once again saving the tech day.
absolutely, always a pleasure. And Elena, again, we look forward to seeing you back here at SMM Connect. And thank you, everybody, for attending and being members at SMM Connect. Don't forget, you can share the recording with your friends, have them become members of our community, invite them to all of our great sessions and access to all of the great recorded webinars in SMM Connect. And membership in SMM Connect is free. So make sure you share with others and they can join our community like you have. Thank you all. Elena, thank you again.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.